Hello, I've been asked to do this quick how-to video for this electronic woggle that I previously posted, um, which is a nice simple little project for maybe an explorer, scout or a leader, or maybe even a scout. Very simple project, uses something called MicroPython. If you're doing this with cubs or you're a beginner, you might prefer to use one of these instead. This is a little microbit. This is what I use when I'm doing coding with cubs. It's not displaying terribly well on my phone camera, but you can program one of these much more easily than you can the more advanced one. These are the sorts of devices that we use in workshops up at Gilwell for sort of winter camp and Gilwell 24, things like that. But anyway, what we're looking at today is this bad boy. So basically, there's three parts to this. You've got a power pack there. I think I got this one for £1 or £2 from Poundland. So that's pretty simple. Then on the back here, you've got this Raspberry Pi Pico, okay, which is basically sort of a very basic type of computer called a microcontroller. And then on the front, we've clipped on this display to it, which if you look, you can see this display has got these buttons on it, which you can program those to do different things. I haven't in this example, but you know, this has got a temperature sensor, so you could do things like program the buttons so that when you press the button it comes up with a temperature, or you could even program a little game. You can program this to show a slideshow, for example, of different images. There's all sorts of bits and bobs you can do with this. So what we'll do is we'll take it to bits and I'll show you the different parts to it. Okay, so we've got the power brick. Obviously, that's just basically a battery pack. Obviously, we've got just a standard USB cable, just the sort like you'd use for charging your phone or whatever. Got a bit of wood for the woggle part of it, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this is the business end of things. We've got these two bits here, components. This then is the Raspberry Pi Pico. Okay. They used to, I think when they came out, they were about £3.60, but I think they're about £3.90 for the basic one now. So the basic one is one like this one. Now, the problem with that one is it doesn't have these little pins that you need. Now, if you're the sort of person who has header pins lying around and you want to solder those on yourself, you can. Probably a lot easier to buy one that's already got the header pins on. That'll cost you £1 or £2 more than the basic model. I think at the moment they're about £5 for a Pico with the header pins on. So this is what you want then, guys. It's a Raspberry Pi Pico H. It's called that. The H bit just means it's got those header pins already on it. Don't bother with a WH or the W, because those ones have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. They'll be more expensive. I mean, they'll work if you wanna use them, but you don't need them. It's cheaper just to buy the basic model, unless you're going to be using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in your project. When they come, they'll come on a little bit of sponge like that, and you see tiny little thing. Okay, so that's the Pico. You can buy that any Raspberry Pi reseller. You're probably best buying it at the same time as you buy the display, which I will come on to next. Okay, so this little display then is called the Pico Display Pack. Okay, and as you can see, it's made by a company called Pimoroni. I think that stands for Pirate Monster Robot Ninja, but I might be wrong. You could use the Display Pack 2. They've got brought out a newer version of it that's slightly bigger, but it's also slightly more expensive. You can still buy the original. I think when I bought this, they often have sort of discount weekends on Pimoroni. I think I got this for about £10. I think the normal retail price is sort of £12 to £15, something like that. Which, it's not too bad, is it? They do more basic sort of displays that are a bit more like the one on the microbit here, which are probably cheaper. But this one's a lovely sort of full colour LED display. So it comes in a little packet like that, I think. Oh no, LCD display even. Okay, so that's your Pico display, so you'll need that as well. And then the next thing you'll be wanting to do is to obviously make your sort of woggle. Okay. So the first woggle I made, my prototype I made out of this very sort of thin ply, which was fine, very easy to work with, but it only lasted about one outing before it actually snapped in two. Obviously you could take 2 or 3 pieces of this and glue them together if that's all you've got. But I actually, for mine, used this bit of old IKEA furniture I had lying around, and I cut the woggle out of that. I think I used a hairbrush as a template to get the oval. And what I've also done on this, you'll see, is I've just used a chisel to take a little bit out there, because if you look at the back of the Pico display, you've got the components that will need a little groove taken out. Similarly, when you put your you want to plug your cable into it, you'll need a little chiseled out bit in order to pop in your cable. Just a little note while I'm thinking of it: when you put your Pico and your display hat together, you've got to make sure that you look at the back of the display hat. It will show you which end is which. So you see where it says USB on that end of it. You've got to make sure that that matches up with the USB end of your Pico. There's the USB there, as you can see. So we know that that basically goes together on there. Okay, anyway, so that's your woggle. I actually cut mine out using this like a little mini, well, it calls itself a mini scroll saw. I would call it a mini jigsaw myself. But yeah, that's quite a nice little tool to have. If you haven't got that, I mean, something like a Dremel would be really useful, or you could just do it by hand with a little, any kind of little scroll saw, handheld scroll saw will do. Okay, so once you've got your all your different components and you've made your woggle and everything, the thing you're going to need to do is to program this little fella to actually display whatever it is you want to display on here and do whatever you want to do. They're so cheap, you can actually obviously buy more than one of them, program them to do different things, and then just swap them in and out of the back here, because these are what, 4 or 5 quid including the pins. So pretty easy to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to basically program this by writing your code on a normal computer. So you can use just a normal Windows PC for that, or a Windows laptop. You can use a Mac. You can use really a Raspberry Pi, whatever you've got. So yeah, obviously you might have a standard sort of Windows PC like that. I actually coded mine on this laptop here, which I actually rescued from a skip. Okay, it's quite a nice little project if you've got an old laptop that's seen better days and is really past it in terms of running the modern software. You can actually put, if you look, there's a little Raspberry Pi in the corner there, because this has got a a PC version, if you like, an x86 version of the Raspberry Pi operating system on it. These are used with the cubs to code the microbits that I've got a load of these down the Scout Hut these old laptops down the Scout Hut. They're basically antique laptops that I've rescued from a skip. I've wiped the hard drive and I've put this new software on it, and it's given a new lease of life. And the cubs are quite happy programming these little microbits using these old laptops. I also, if ever they need to look up something on the internet, for some of the badges, like the local history badge, we do a bit of research on the internet, obviously highly supervised, but these can actually be used for surfing the web. Not bad for a computer that hasn't cost me a penny. So I actually use this old laptop to code my Raspberry Pi Pico. But like I say, if you want to use a more modern computer like a Mac or a Windows machine, then you can do that just as easily. And the bit of software that I used is a piece of software called Thonny. That basically allows you to write your MicroPython code and transfer it onto the Pico. A MicroPython basically is a sort of a cut down version of Python. So if you're used to coding in Python, then you'll be fine. If you're a complete beginner like me, I'm not a coder, I'm not a tech head, so I actually I'm old school. There's loads and loads of if you go online, go on YouTube, you'll find that there's loads of different tutorials, loads of free stuff out there learning how to code a Pico and learning MicroPython. I'm a bit old school, so I used this book, Get Started MicroPython. This is the Raspberry Pi Press. Just a little note about Raspberry Pi as an organisation. They are a partner with the Scout Association, and they're actually a charity. So all these different bits and bobs that you buy, like if you buy this book, if you buy Raspberry Pi Pico, you are actually contributing money to a really worthwhile educational charity. So it's always good to know. But basically, I kind of am a bit of a beginner, and I'm a bit old school. So I quite liked the book to be able to sort of work my way through these nice, easy kind of examples from the book. Other people will prefer to go online and look up some quick tutorials. So basically, that's how to get started in terms of you want to basically be getting some information online about how to do this. Just a note: if you go onto the Pimoroni website, these are the guys who actually make the display. They don't make the actual Pico itself, but they make that screen that goes on the front. If you go to the page where they're selling the Pico display pack and scroll down, you will find that they've got loads of information on there under their Getting Started with Raspberry Pi Pico, and the MicroPython examples are what I've basically used for this project. So if we click on the examples, it takes you to their demos, okay? And the two that I've used are this one here, which is the where is it? It's the balls demo. So all those little balls dancing around on the screen. I've basically cheated. I've kind of cut and pasted this this code, I should say, and I've tweaked a little bit the colors and so on. I fiddled about with it, and then I've kind of boshed it together with another one of their demo codes, which is this one called rainbow.py, and then again, obviously I've changed the text and I've changed the size of the text and a few little other bits like that, and then I've just kind of mixed those two bits of code, put them into the same program, and put them on a loop. Basically, if you use any sort of decent tutorial or use this book, you'll learn how to sort of do that kind of thing. But I didn't actually write the code. I've just taken their demo code from the Pimoroni website, and I've just adapted it a little bit, put it together. Obviously, if you're a proper coder, unlike me, then you'll be able to do all sorts of whizzy and flashy things. Just a little note here. If you follow online tutorials or if you use this book, what they'll tell you to do in here is to go to the Raspberry Pi website and to basically put a little bit of software onto this Pico from the Raspberry Pi website in order to get started. Okay, now just a note, because you're using this display hat from Pimoroni, you actually have to use their software, not the Raspberry Pi software. I mean, it'll work exactly the same. It's just that their software contains the different bits of sort of drivers and things that you need for this screen, which the Raspberry Pi software in its basic form won't. So again, if you go to the Pimoroni page for the Pico display, and if you scroll down to getting started, it'll basically on this page that it takes you to getting started with Raspberry Pi, it'll have a link there to the Pimoroni software that you need. I think that is probably all you need to know to get started. I might be wrong, so if you want any questions, then ask. Like I say, if you're a complete beginner, then you might want to do a project using the microbit. I've got it flashing a love heart there, but you can do all sorts of things. You can get it to scroll text on here. One that I do with the cubs, which is good fun, is do a little rock, paper, scissors game where you shake this and it'll randomly choose rock, paper or scissors, so the cubs can actually... there's all sorts of things you can do with this. You can do the magic 8 ball. I actually get the cubs to clip crocodile clips on here, and they have wires coming off and running LEDs and little buzzers and all sorts of things like that. So these are great fun if you're doing coding with cubs, because also the other thing about these is they use a block-based code, which is very similar to something called Scratch, which is what they do at school. So usually when I do that with cubs, they're like straight away, oh, it's like Scratch, and they find it very easy to use. Coding in MicroPython is obviously a much more kind of advanced, I suppose, coding, much more sort of traditional way of coding. So obviously keener cubs might want to do it in their own time, something like this, but it's probably something a bit more advanced for something like explorers or whatever. Okay, hopefully that has answered questions that people have. Otherwise, just I don't know, post a question or whatever. Hope that helps. Thank you.